Let me first of all talk about the topic. So I'm going to talk about the research landscapes and how to see patterns in the literature through literature visualization. So I'm going to skip through this. So this is me. I think some of you might know me. I'm Sandun. I was a graduate from the University of Moratu as well, and this is the thing that I have done. So mainly my area is spatial data science. So I'm more into spatial decision analytics and things into that. Let's go to the real stuff. Now, when we talk about the data landscape, you can see the amount of data created per year. Daily data creation, 3.5 quintillion of bytes, and annual data generation around like increasing day by day with all the 100% and 150%, so and so forth. Because of this, it's very difficult to read all the data and all the publications if you are going to read them. And if you are going to interact with them, it's going to be really, really difficult. And the overall trend suggests that it will be, we call them sequential big data. It actually increases and accumulates again and again every now and then. So if you are going to get patterns or understand things in the data itself, it's going to be really difficult. So we call this the era of big data. We have high volume of data. So you can see the generation every now and then. You can see video feeds, audio feeds, and textual data, and all these things adding up. Then you have the velocity, which means the time and the amount that is generated within a short period of time. It's also increasing, and the variety is the type of data that you find. So this is the big picture in the world. Now let's look at about why publishing and this data visualization is important. Now, if you think about publishing, these are some of the latest statistics. You can see in 2018, roughly 2.55 million science and engineering articles were published. And by 2020, 2.9 million articles, which means we are talking about 0.4 million increase. And 90% of these publications coming from countries like us. And also, there are a lot of countries that produce science rapidly. We call them, some papers might be seminal papers, like defining the fundamentals of a certain subject area, but some will be derivatives or tangential papers which only exist to I would say, solve a very mediocre gap in research. Now, again, this is again about how science and engineering has evolved over the years. And you can see this is from National Science Foundation, US. You can see again the growth of science and technology related publications. Now, given this trend, right, it's not easy to go to a library and read articles and get to know things. It's really difficult to understand where you are, because if you look at the hierarchy of research, this is the plain truth. You have a supervisor, a professor, or someone who is a senior fellow, and this person would give you a topic, and it will come down to the food chain, and there would be a person who is experiencing research for the first time, right? So he'll be going to the library and start reading this, he or she, and probably it will be really difficult to start from where, right? So you would always, if you look at the way how these novice researchers would work, they would expect a seminal paper or a main paper to be shared with them by their senior fellow, maybe 5-6 papers, and then they expect that this hierarchy or this branching can be done with 5 or 6 papers, and then you just look at the references and so on and so forth. You expect that to grow like that. But the problem is the researcher will be by themselves, right? So after 2 weeks, when you go back to the meeting, again only the very narrow down things would be discussed. You don't know what are the directions, you don't know where you are heading in a research. So this is the basic truth about research worldwide. Now, before going into the exact details of these science databases and all these things, let me give you a reality of the publishing industry. Now, if you look at journals, and conferences and all these things, all of them have a certain vision, right? Some journals expect to be the leading journal in that particular area within next 5 years, or they want to have, if people want, say, Scopus index, and then you go for Web of Science index, ES Science index, Science citation index, those things. So they have a target. Because of that, they need to accommodate certain type of research in their journals, and also they need to talk about certain areas in research, certain topics in those domains. Now, that's why you can see you have something called impact factor, acceptance rate, time for decisions, and all these things. And these are, you need to understand these things if you need to produce in science. Otherwise, whatever you publish or try to publish would be not in that area of interest, one thing. Second thing is it will be outdated. And you will be looking at an area that was explored maybe 5 years ago, or maybe it's not the time to start that. Maybe there are certain things that you need to fulfill before you go into that broader or that narrow down or a specific topic area, because either you are too low or you are too away, right? So why do papers get rejected? This is like some points. They would be sent to a wrong journal, and also there are so many other things like too long. They send the entire thesis to the journal, and then theoretical framework is wrong. I don't think like mostly people from our university might be doing false theory or thing. I don't know, but anyway, there are people, there are papers that I have reviewed that do not fall into the certain areas of theoretical research, or they don't understand what they have done basically. So, and also scrappily presented, data visualization comes again as a handy tool to summarize data as well as showing directions in data and what you have done. So this is the boundaries of what we have and what we need to address if you want to get into science and publish in science. So before I talk about the gaps in science, let me talk about this entire thing of databases and why, and the connectivity of knowledge. So we have a broader like the things that you, I think some of you might be aware of, that there are Q1, Q2, Q3 sort of rankings, right? So this comes from Scopus. It's a broader, I would say, class of things. If you look at this, it's a cluster of science publications and certain peer-reviewed publications. So this is, I think, previous University of Moratuwa had the access to Scopus, but I think now we don't have. But anyway, this is a print screen from the web page that you would see when you log into Scopus. So you can select based on the field, based on the author or a certain affiliation, source title, funding information. You have all sort of things to decide where your research fits. Now this is a broader scope, right? Scopus is a database that contains research from all these areas, all these different affiliations and all. So you know that this is peer reviewed, and if the popularity or the acceptance of a particular journal is in a certain level of a given domain, we call these Q ranks. Like you have, if you have high citation index, which means it's a popular topic among your peers. So if a journal is publishing those kind of things, they can be seen, so they come up in the ranking and they become Q1. So it's basically how you rank them, how your citation and how it allows you to be visible is quantified. And there are H index and other things as well. So let's plain simple, this is the database Scopus. And Web of Science, it's a narrowed down view, I would say, because some of the journals that you find in Scopus might not be indexed in Web of Science. And this is also similar to that. And you'll find a lot of journals and a lot of very, we call this papers that have done paradigm shift. You can find a lot of papers in this type of a specified database, right? So this is where literature exists, right? If you are doing research, if you are trying to do impactful research, this is the place that you need to find your papers. Right. Now I come back to the initial posit that I have said. You have millions of papers coming up, and even if you take a fraction of those papers, you will end up with 50,000, 40,000 of papers, even for the last 5 years, for a particular area. If you take a look at biostatistics or medical research, you are looking at a lot of research. If you are looking at archaeology also, the domains and the way that you have to look at research differ. So sometimes in archaeology, you might need to look at papers from 1950, 1905, something like that. But if you look at science, like big data, for example, it exists like 3 years ago. So you have to look at research that have been published in that certain narrow time period. So this is the scale. Now I come to visualizing literature. There are several tools that you can visualize literature. One of the websites that I have shared here is called ResearchRabbit. It's an open access database. So you can log into this. Let me show you some idea of it. So you can go to ResearchRabbit. And if you have a topic in mind, what you just need to do is logging into this and then put a topic of your interest until it loads. Let me to take some time. Let me do this. I will go first through these things and then I come back to them in separate note. Okay, so this is ResearchRabbit. Now when you put a topic or a DOI, a digital object identifier tag, then you can see the links associated with that. The good thing with ResearchRabbit is you can decide on the say labs that you need to focus. Now some of you might be looking at higher study opportunities afterwards also, and maybe looking at research from a global perspective where the research happens, right, where this is highly done. Sort of you can look at the affiliations of the authors as well from this side, and it's a rabbit hole. If you click on one, and then it will keep on opening up new visualizations, new connectivities, so and so forth. So the size of this bubble, most of the time in this visual analytics diagram, the size of this bubble indicates the citation, the number of citation that particular paper has gained, and the connectivity, how that paper is linked to the other papers. Sometimes if you look at an elephant, some paper might be looking at the tusk, and some paper might be looking at the entire elephant itself. So you are connected like that. You can see the knowledge tree, how it grows. Again, this is again a famous website, I think, Connected Papers. A lot of you might be aware of it. Connected Papers previously allowed any number of connectivity diagrams, but now I don't think it is free to that level. You can if you need Wi-Fi, you can connect to the TCP auditorium Wi-Fi. There's a password there. So if you need internet, please do so. I think the internet connectivity is low here. Right. So you can see the connectivity or the connected papers allows you to again look at the citation diagram, and then you can see there's a clustering as well. This is more apparent in connected papers, these islands of research, which means you can see, like for example, if a particular research is in say crime related research, one would be about maybe homicide, something like that, and then one would be about traffic violation. So these are in two different domains, two different islands, but they are in the same cluster. Like as a whole, they are in the crime related cluster, but isolated island. So you can see like that different islands for different types of subclusters in the same connectivity diagram. Now this is looking at research from the above. So you can decide, okay, if I am in this domain, now most of the time what I see is that when you, even myself, when I was reading articles, maybe when I started doing this, when you look at keywords, then I was thinking why this keyword is there. And if you look at the topic, also some topics have, now when I was asked to put keywords, I put the topic and then keywords that I feel are more relevant in the field, but they don't match. So this keyword is very important because keyword decides what sort of a domain that you would be looking at. Now this cluster will allow you to look at your keywords, like to decide on the key clustering or the sort of class that you should be looking at. Now I will give you another example. If you think about climate disasters, different types of climate disasters are there. You can think about hurricanes, floods, those things. As well as you can think about the arid regions or deserts, desertification, those things. So from a perspective of disasters, climate disasters, they belong to the same. But if you look at the keywords, they would be different, right? So first you have to look at the full picture, and then you have to look at the subcluster as well. So these keywords are important, and you can decide what sort of a keyword would fall into your area of research by looking at these clusters. So coming back to the example that I said earlier on, if your senior research guide gave you a paper or a seminal paper of a certain topic that he or she thinks would be fitting into your domain of research, you can do a clustering like this and see what sort of other papers belong to that particular subcluster. Then you can decide what you do next, so and so forth. Now, I like this because all the previous one, connected papers, and both of them are free to some extent. ResearchRabbit is free. Connected papers is free to some extent. But I like Dimensions because for a country like us who doesn't have a lot of resources, Dimensions allow you to look at these papers like you do with Scopus or Web of Science, because you can log into Dimensions and then you can look at papers, data sets, grants, and all sort of things associated with a particular topic free of charge. So you don't have to have a subscription. Only thing is that when you want to visualize research, which I'm going to do in a few moments, you have to it's limited. You can only export, I think, 100 or 500, I forgot, but a certain amount of records only. Because you need records for the visualization if you are doing visualization in-house, right? So Dimensions AI is a very powerful tool for you to analyze research, to visualize research, look at the directions of the research. Okay, so before I go into the hands-on part of the work, let me give you an idea, a flavor of what is this literature visualization mean. Now, this I think I did for transportation in data science in transportation or something like that. So what you see is some of the trend topics, and you can see the topic emerging in a certain era. So for example, if you look at the term frequency here, the size of that bubble indicates the frequency of that particular word happening all around the time frame. And you can see, some words might not be too specific, like male, female, human. Those are not really important. But look at GIS, geographic information systems, computer simulations, soil erosion. Like I forgot exactly what the code was. So, but exactly you can see the term and where it started, like the span of its occurrence. Because sometimes, now I'll give you an area that I work on, spatial data science. Previous in 1995, 2005, somewhere around that, it was called GIS, and that's the term that everybody uses nowadays. Now the word is it's called G-science. It's a different thing. It's not geo-information systems anymore. It's GI science. And you have geointelligence, spatial data science specifically because previously spatial analytics and this GIS stuff was in an area where you only have cartographers and environmental people working on those things. But now data scientists are into that, so you have spatial data science, geointelligence, those things separately. So with the emerging topics, you can see how those topics have come. So now if you look at large language models like ChatGPT, you can see after 2019, end of 2020, somewhere around that, you can see this emerging. They become a keyword after that. So if you look at this, you can see where you are. Because if you are doing an international conference or you are going for some sort of a research publication, seminar or something, if you use that old term, the people would identify you as someone who is not updated. So these are the things you have to be really careful when you are dealing with particularly high IQ reviewers, because they are always looking at you and how you would present yourself. Now I come back to analyzing research for specific time span sources. All these things can be done with RStudio. I'll show you how to do it. Only thing is that you need to have a database file. So I have it with me. I'll share it after the workshop. But first, just look at them and the way that I do, just for an example. You can see the annual growth rate of publications, co-authors per doc. You know, like in you can see if it is a group or an entire department is involved in a paper or not. So you can see the way it is done. Because if you look at experimental physics, the number of authors are very high. Like you can see a lot of authors in such papers, because it's like astronomy, those kind of big research, you have a lot of authors and you can decide where you are as well. And the average citations per doc will decide where you are. And also this is an average number. As I said, some seminal papers would get more citations and some tangential or just papers for them, their sake, would get low number of citations. So it's a polarized thing. And document average age would also give you an indication how rapidly a particular domain is moving, because some of the things that we might be using 5 years ago might not be applicable now. So it's also evolving. Number of references, how many interdisciplinary and intradisciplinary things are there, you can decide on just by looking at it. So I haven't even given you the list of references here, but even for you, when you are looking at this, you can get an idea about what sort of a thing this may be, right? So that's the power of visualizing literature. And the next type of visualization is about getting the authors and the keywords linked. So you can decide on what sort of a keyword or a research area is covered by what particular research institution or an author here. In this case, it's an author. And then you have how they are linked. So you have the, say, water resources management, the journals in the right-hand side. Left-hand side, you have the keywords, and you have the authors who are bridging that knowledge from left to right. You can do this visualization as well to identify which author contributes to what area and what journal is might be willing to take that particular topic. So you can decide how this works. Because, even though we talk about this double-blind review, peer review, all these things, if a reviewer is experienced in that particular area, he would understand whether you have read those articles or not, right? So that could be a serious issue if you haven't referred to those pillars of research in that particular domain. You have to read those seminal papers in order to be established as a scientist in that particular area. Right, so I'll stop that. I'll come to the part where I talk about this visualization. Now I have, I think eventually I could load Research Rabbit. Let's see how long it takes for dimensions. It will load eventually. So now I'm going to show you an example of this visualization, which I have done obviously for the sake of, for today's sake. Now, okay, it loads very fast. That's a surprise. So now I can sign into my my account. Let me check. Right. Now you can see the amount of publications and everything available here. So initially, I would do this in a Scopus website if it is available, right? If it is available, Scopus or Web of Science, my suggestion would be to go to that, because that's the way that you should do it. But since we need to have at least some idea about it, I'm using this dimension, and it's a very, very good tool. So for example, let's say I'm going to talk about education and machine learning. So if you just, I'm just giving you an idea, you can use different keywords and different connectors to find out these things. So initially what you need, before any sort of a visualization, first thing you need to do is to narrow down your topic. Because if you, I initially gave you some idea about big data, yes, but this is not an exercise of visualizing big data. So you have to narrow down the data to the domain that, or area that you are specializing in. Then if it is, now here you have 16 lakh something, right? Quite a lot of number. First thing would be to check the publication here, and then okay, we have a lot of things happening here. Or if you are aware of a particular researcher, you can decide who to look for, and research categories are there. You can see a better version in Scopus and Web of Science, but typically this is what you see. And sustainable development goals are there here in the dimensions. That's a plus thing. It's available in Web of Science as well. If you get a chance, you would be able to see that. Now let me put climate actions, because I'm more interested in that. And you can decide on the publication type as well, although I didn't discuss about the articles or the chapters, what the difference between these things, but you have an idea about what is the publication type. So you can decide on whether it's going to be a paper or whether it's going to be a book chapter, etc. And sources, source titles as well. If you are familiar with particular research journal article, or a particular journal that is in that area, you can decide, this Research Square is a preprint website, which is like, say your group is publishing something. It's still in the peer review process, but it's an article that would attract a lot of citations. If you feel so, you can put it into Research Square as an archive, like a preprint. So the authors can cite your work, but you have to have an idea whether it's going to be accepted or not. So that's the trade-off that you have to do. But if you are confident about what you have done, you can put it there. So you can, even with the Research Square, what you can do is, you can decide whether there are new topics. If you have an idea like to publish something, and if you think that, okay, I need to check whether others have used this topic, or decide on that, you can go to that and check that. Then you have all sort of sources and titles, and then the journal list is available here as well. They are not really up to my liking, but anyway, we can survive with what we have. And for us, if you are looking for articles, it's a trade-off, I would say. Some good articles are available with open access, because now people are publishing open access. But there are articles that, if you look at before 2021 or something, some articles are still in the subscribe category, so you might need to download them separately. So if you are trying to get a flavor of the topic without going into the to hit on the wall, like oh, I don't have the subscription, I can't download. It's better to have all open access, so that you start your work and then you can move to closed or subscribed version. Then you can start your work, right? So anyway, once you do all these things, when you narrow down, let me limit to climate action 13, and it's still 14,000 something. Let me narrow it down to 2024, 23, and 23. It's still 3,000 something, so let me limit to that. So still I can narrow down. So likewise, you need to filter this out in order to do the visualization. And then just once you are finished, you can save as a favorite or export results. You click on export results, you will get an option to export this as a CSV. So this is general. You can, even if Scopus, even if it is Web of Science, you'll get the same type of an option, whether to export it as a CSV file or a bibliometric file like .bib file, bibtex sort of thing. And VOS Viva, I think most of you are familiar with VOS Viva. It's also a citation visualization software written in Java. It's also open access. I didn't talk about it because a lot of resources are available on that, and you can, I think it separately can be done. What I'm going to show here is some specific things, so I left it aside for the discussion. You can export the full record as CSV, and you can see maximum is 500 items because you know, you don't have money. That's the thing. So if you add the subscription, you can export this, and you can do AI. Specifically, the Dimensions AI allow you to do very nice AI related understanding on your topic as well. So it's only for the people who have money. Anyway, so for 500 items, you can download this. You can export the CSV. I'm just showing you an example. Let me export this. And I have a data set predefined on this particular area so that I can minimize the hassle around this. So once it is done, you need to go to Export Center, your Export Center. And from there, you can get the keywords and the search terms that I have done, and you can download the CSV. So you can if you click on this, it will download. Let me download to this folder, and I want to show you the nature of the data that you are visualizing first. Now, if you go to this folder that you have downloaded, I have a set of data that I like to show you. Because of that, I'll use them. But anyway, first of all, let me show you how it looks. Right? Okay, so I have extracted this from the dimensions. If you open this up, okay, so this is what you would see. From any database, you can select certain things, but in any, let me zoom it in. So this is what you would get from any database. When you import or export your records from a database, this is what you get. Now, these are the things that you have to understand if you want to visualize research. What are the features of your database? So you have ranking about the thing. Because I'm not familiar with the ranking in dimensions, I'm not going to talk about that. But if it is Scopus or Web of Science, you can see the Q ranking, which is Q1, Q2, Q3 sort of. You can have a separate database on that. And then the publication ID. DOI is the important thing, digital object identifier, and you have other stuff related to that. And then you have the title, abstract, acknowledgement, funding source, all sort of details that you want in your database is available here. Other things are related to mostly towards the dimension specific, but I like this particular thing in sustainable development goals because you can use it to decide on certain things if you are looking for a grant or if you are looking at a certain, say now there are several levels. Like if you start your research, you may not know where your domain is, where your flavor is, but say if you become 2, 3 years, 4 years old in this area, you might think that, okay, I'm working on this particular area of sustainable development goals, maybe climate action, maybe poverty, maybe sustainable cities, life underwater. So you have a lot of areas, so you can decide on where you're working on. Then you create that bubble in that area where you would like to have an impact. So that's entirely what it's up to you. And some of the work related to climate action, affordable clean energy both. So I like this column in dimensions data, which is unique as far as I see. So you can decide what you want, right? So this is the data set that you get when you export your dimensions file. This is what you get. Now, first I will talk about, not about this, about Web of Science, sorry, Scopus database file that I took from one of my friends, because again we don't have access. So this is what you get with Scopus. Much neater version of it, because now the same thing, but you can see cited by, you have the interconnectivity in dimensions, it was not available there, and you can see the article number and all the source titles, the journal names, those things, and also you can see other stuff as well. Language, now we know that a lot of research, I mean, in fact 95% of research is done in English, but Chinese is also emerging language. You can see other languages also keeping up, and previous it was French, so you have some articles in that area as well. Also article type, it is much convenient to my liking, as opposed to what you see in dimensions, because you need to do some pre-processing in order to do the visualization. With Scopus directly you get a very nice data set with all these whatnots available. Right, so these are the things you would see, and the next type of file that you typically would export is called bibtex documents. Right, this is the .bib file that you get from export when you are trying to export. You saw the same thing in the dimensions as well. So these are the type of files that you get when you are trying to visualize research. When you are starting to read a topic, you go to the database, do the search, and then you get this kind of a file. So next thing is what we are interested in. Now, to this end, there are various software. I talked about VOS Viewer. It's something, I think it's popular among people, but I will show you something extra that is called Bibliometrics package, available in, it's called Bibliometric package in R. This thing, Bibliometrics R. Now we are coming to an age where nobody can say that we are not into programming, or we don't know anything about programming, right? We have to use computers now. The amount of data is quite high. So this is very simple. You first of all need to install R. Now it is called POSIT, I think. So if you go to R and RStudio website, first thing you could do is, first thing you need to do, thanks to very fast internet, it will take some time. So once you go to the R website, RStudio website, you can, this is POSIT, download RStudio. When you go to this link, you can install RStudio here. RStudio, and first you need to install R, that's the language. Then you need to install RStudio, it's like the IDE. Since I have installed it, I have it with me. So let me open up my RStudio. This is very simple. You can do this, so I don't need to go with one by one. Want to have the fun of doing it. So this particular package can be installed with a single command, like install.packages. Within quotation mark, if you put bibliometrics, it will install the package. And this is the interface you would get with RStudio, right? So what the code that I was referring to is just, if you just type install dot packages, and inside the brackets just type bibliometrics, and you are good to go. It will be there. I don't want to install it again, and I feel with the internet connection it will take a lot of time. So once you have done this, you are ready to go, because you don't have to worry about anything, any code or anything. You are ready to go. Just install RStudio and install the bibliometrics package. You are ready to go. So the first thing that you need to do is, you will get a code like this, bibliometrics 2 colons, and we are looking at something called BiblioShiny. once you install this one, you can get this. For some reason, need to, I think, stop my Wi-Fi for the, because it tries to look into that video. Get the bibliometrics and you get BiblioShiny. This is the package. That's all. You just need to look at this. Just press enter. That's all. Nothing else. Install RStudio, install bibliometrics, and just type that thing. You can get this. So it will be loaded to your browser. Let it run for a few minutes. It will load that interface. So I have this Scopus dataset, Scopus extract. Let me give you a brief idea about what this dataset is. So the dataset or the publication set includes papers that talks about marine pollution. Let me zoom into that. Because I would forget the keyword that I put in, I specifically saved it like that. So marine pollution, marine disaster, ocean disaster, like these are the things included in the search. So this is the one that I got. So this is my CSV file. Let's see whether that's loaded. Okay. So once you have, install RStudio, install bibliometrics and run that command, you get BiblioShiny package loaded to your browser. That's all. After this, what you need to do is you need to go to data, and there is an option to load data. Gathering data is available again for the people who have the API access. Now you can see if you are going for a gathering data thing, you have database connections, dimensions, PubMed, all these things. You just need to configure the API, and people who are aware of these things, you can try. But because you don't have a subscription, you don't have the API, so it's kind of a mess. Application program interface, we don't have it. So what we need to do is we need to download that database file, and you need to load that file to your bibliometrics interface. So this, go to load data, and you can choose what sort of a file to import. Right? It can be a raw file, it can be a bibliometrics file, and sample collection. Use a sample collection. I can talk about sample collection because it might be much convenient, but let me get the challenge and show what I have with me. I'm going to load the raw file. Sorry, load the raw file. It will ask me. This is important because now we are dealing with programs here. When you select import raw files, you can see there was another selection here. It asks you from where your data was generated. That is because I've shown you two different things, one from Dimensions and one from Scopus. You could see that the way data was organized is different. Right? In Dimensions, you might have seen there was an initial row and then another row, and the organization is entirely different. In Scopus, it's different. Because of that, you have to specifically mention where your data comes from. Otherwise, the program doesn't know that, so you get a lot of errors. Here also, I would get some errors, and I'll talk about that as I do this. So I'm going to select Scopus because that's where I got my data from, and I'm going to browse to that file, marine pollution thing. Say open. Now it will be linked to the to this BiblioShiny bibliometrics package. When I say start, it will take some time because I took this for my future work as well. It contains a lot of data. I think 6 MB something. So once it's loaded, you would see something like this. Right. Now, for those who are doing data science, we talk about this as a subject, how to pre-process data. Now, what you see here is the quality of data that you have for your visualization. Now, in my case, I took the data, right? So it contains different columns. So you can see these columns available here as well with the abbreviation, the metadata abbreviation, the small word. So AB stands for abstract, AU for the author, document type, so and so forth. You have this, and this column indicates missing counts. So those who are doing, I think for your research also, you might be doing data pre-processing. So when you are doing data pre-processing, you know that there are NA values like null values, those things. You need to have them for your work. Now in this case, it shows the missing counts. And for the journal, we have one missing count. So you have the missing percentage as well. And you have affiliation missing 2, cited references missing 3, keyword plus, DOI missing, some missing details are there. And science categories are not available, so because of that it's completely missing. Okay, right. Now, so there are 512 documents from Scopus. I just want to close this. First of all, you need to know where the data that you don't have. So excellent means you have all the data, good means you have some missing data, and completely missing, obviously, as the word says, you don't have data. Now let me close this. Now it is loaded. So once the data is loaded to your BiblioShiny package, you can see something like this. After that, it's actually about analyzing your data. Okay, all these things will be available once you load your data properly. You can do the same thing with dimensions as well. Once you load the data, you can see this. Now you can go for filters. You can do the publication. You can see Chinese, English, Korean, Portuguese, the language filtering. You just say apply. Once you do that, you can see that column wise thing. You can export this to CSV and Excel. Just need to do the scaling down. You just need to apply, and then based on your selection, the narrowed down version of your things would be available. That's about filters. And for the overview, this is where the fun things come. You can go to main information, right? So when you go there, you can see the same thing that I have shared in the presentation. The time span of the search, I asked my friend to do it for the last 10 years. And the sources, number of articles from different sources. I mean, the number of sources, the journal names, etc., and the number of documents, and the annual growth rate, and the co-authors, also average citation. You can immediately decide where you are in your research. Like if you are in an area that has a lot of citations, it's the time to get depressed. And if you are in an area which has a lot of papers that get citation after a long period of time, it's a place to have fun. Because you can see average citations per document and the average count and how it moves, then you have the number of authors, author keywords, etc. And then annual scientific production. If you go here, you can see a curve, how it moves. Now it's accumulating, and you can see the ups and downs. Now if you look at a particular area like machine learning or data science, you can see it emerges suddenly after certain area, some part. And average citation per year also, it will show you whether leading authors in your area, what is the citation count that you are looking at. So I specifically took data from ocean disaster, mining disaster related, marine disaster related areas. So you can see average citation count. And this is the 3-field plot that I've shown you: authors and the keywords and the journal source. It will be generated. Give me a second. So you can see who are the main authors, and I think this relates to okay. This has the corresponding author. I think you have these names: oil spill. Now I think even though you haven't read any article here, you can decide what sort of things are in the marine disasters, right? If you look at marine disasters, ocean disasters as a keyword, you can see what are the main things you can find. Oil spill, obviously I focused on AI, so you can, deep learning is there, artificial intelligence is there, image segmentation and synthetic SAR, Some of you might be aware of this. And then you have microplastics as well. So even though we may be coming from diverse backgrounds or maybe doing research in different areas, we all can agree that these are the terms that we have heard in this related to this. So this is the set of knowledge that you need to link your research with. So I mean, not your, but if you are looking at your specific research. So these are the things you need to. So if you are doing a review article, if you are doing say book chapter, whatever, you have to decide the amount of papers that you need to look at pertaining to these kind of topics, because these are the existing knowledge, right? So you need to understand the existing knowledge to understand the gap. Otherwise, you can't face your research, right? So you can decide on your own. So this is the three-field plot, and then you can go to sources. Most relevant sources are there. You can see Marine Pollution Bulletin. Obviously, like this is the aim and scope of this journal is entirely to that area. And you have remote sensing, then you have computer science, and then science and total environment. I mean, they publish all sort of things. So if you are in the environmental area, you know that science of the total environment contains all sort of papers in different domains there. IEEE transaction in geoscience and remote sensing, you have ocean coastal management. So with this you can decide where you can find your journals, articles, because you need to read this. That is because if you are from a particular area, you need to show your reviewers that you are using their language, right? If you want to publish in this journal, you need to follow their formats, the way that they talk about science, the way they visualize things, the data that they take. So you have to look at those things to have a flavor of your work. Otherwise, what you are doing is not overlapping with their requirements. So it will be a very difficult thing to convince the reviewers. Then some other things that talks about how the citation scores have varied in different journals, particularly to this domain. And local impacts, I think it's not available. Let me check. Yeah, it's available. So local impact and the global impact means sometimes I forgot exactly what the interpretation here is, but it means whether you have citation inside the journal or outside of that. So if you have, say, if you're looking at Marine Pollution Bulletin, sometimes they would be having 1, 2, 3, 4 papers that focus on a certain thing, citing each one of them. So you have in-house citations. Right, let's go to most relevant authors. This is important to cite people. Now you can see who you have seen in those papers that you have read, whether you are having papers from these authors, because it appears that in that area these are the authors who are doing this research, right? So then you need to decide, like they have these articles, and decide on whether you need to read these articles from these particular authors. It's not about citing all the time, citing them. It's not about that, but you have to make sure that you know the core area of your research, what is happening there. And also you have the author's production over time. You can see whether they are actively engaged in research, where they have started their research, and how they have created this. So understanding your peers is also important when you are publishing and when you are in the research. So let's come to this part about clustering. Let me show you this. It will take some time. I think it's much clearer with the network diagram. So I think people who are familiar with VOS Viewer might have seen this in their work. Who are using VOS Viewer might have seen this. It gives you the network with the clustering, which means who is connected to what. And also, as I said earlier, if you are looking at crime, homicide and traffic violations would be in the same area but in two different domains, the islands. So you can see the clusters, how far away and how close they are when it comes to a particular area with the coloring and all. So you can have different clusters as well, and also the impact of each type of area, like machine learning, ecosystem, and environmental monitoring. You can see the percentage they contribute. It's a quantitative measure, but still you can identify where you should position yourself when you are doing research. Then let's look at whether, I'm not sure, because in some cases some of the data is not available and it's not shown. So you can be my guest and do all these things and see whether you can see the same. Right, you can see based on the keyword. So in the network you can see marine, because marine pollution is what I have decided on taking the database from, the search from. So you can see environmental monitoring, how they are connected, and so and so forth. Pollution monitoring and oil spill. Most of the time the marine pollution is related to oil spills. So you can see the strength of that arm, the thickness of that arm. And also you can see blue color and the red color indicating the two different domains, because environmental monitoring and SAR and all these things belongs to somewhat towards remote sensing stuff, but you have the one towards the marine pollution to this side, right? Marine debris, water pollutants, microplastics, they belong to some other domain, not particularly in the marine pollution. So you have thematic map as well. Now, this is exactly why I chose this particular thing here. You have so many visualizations. The things that you can visualize is quite a lot, and because it's open source as well, I encourage you to use this, because you don't have to worry about anything. If you have someone to give you the Scopus database search, after that you can usually do this without any problem, and you can see emerging themes, basic themes, and relevance. You can see even with a hunch that we had, we thought plastics and human fall into the very grayish area of this research, because they can be anywhere, not related to marine pollution as well. But you can see basic themes to the right hand side with marine pollution and environmental monitoring, and to the left hand side as emerging topics, remote sensing and SAR. So this is how you kind of get an idea of what is happening. And in terms of thematic evolution, how let's see whether it shows us this. Sometimes it doesn't, when you don't have, because you don't have a lot of things. You need API access to do that, because you need large data sets to see different slices of time. Factorial analytics, I think it's about this thing, which I'm going to do with another software in a few minutes. This is interesting. So factorial analysis about different words. We call this, in statistics we have this principal component analysis and all these things. You can decide what vector you are looking at. Now pollution forecasting, oceanography, we have certain relation with the other dimensions. So you can decide that it's a complex topic to discuss, but once you have a flavor of it, you will understand where you should exactly focus your research on, right? Then you have this, I'm not sure, with you have this like a decision tree sort of a clustering. You can see where specific bin you should be looking at, and the words by cluster, it again show the amount of articles that is present there. Articles by cluster will give you that particular article, say a particular seminal paper, which might be contributing to the others. So you can decide whether to focus that. So my suggestion, if you are getting the help from someone outside of the university to download papers, don't ask them to send all these links and ask them to download everything and give it to you. You can first of all ask for a Scopus search or something, and then decide what paper you should be focusing on. Maybe identifying 10-20 papers, and then moving from there would be ideal, because that will allow you to establish yourself first and save a lot of time, I think. And intellectual structure, I'm not sure whether this is available, because I have bad feeling sometimes some visuals are not available because of missing data. Let's see. Yeah, it's available. So it's again, previous it was the conceptual part like keyword connection. This is about co-citation, like who is what. You can decide the labs, etc. You know who is working with who, and isolated people who are far away looking at others and trying to be heard in some cases. Collaboration network will also, I think this gives you a better idea of what I'm talking about. You can see some isolated labs, some professors leading, and they are in one bubble. His student is somewhere, her student is somewhere. So you know how it works, and you can see isolated clusters as well. Right. So countries collaboration, this is very important when you are looking at national level or international level collaborations with grants and all. You can decide if your research, you know, obviously nowadays when you are doing this, you would see China coming up. But apart from that, you can see the connection, the networks, like how now in this case, I think Sri Lanka might be connected, yes, with you can see the network, how it works, how the knowledge is created with different nodes, how the labs are working together. So you can decide if you are going for a grant or something to maybe collaborate, maybe use their resources, whatnot. So you can create a report of your own, that's up to you. But I think with this you get a good idea about the basics of BiblioShiny, what you can do with this. So only 3 steps. You install RStudio with R, and then you install Bibliometrics, BiblioShiny, and then you just load the data set. So getting the data set is the most important thing. That's why I had invested some time on that. Right, now I'm going to show you something that it's out of this database visualization. I'm going to show you how to use available software in your machines, something that you have already. I think some of you might have it, Power BI, in your computers, or it's available with Windows computers. You can use Tableau as well, but it will open up a lot of discussion, so I'm just using Power BI here. You can use Power BI to do literature visualization. I will show you one. I think I created one for this thing because I don't want to make this a lesson in Power BI. Some of you might have learned Power BI from me, so I don't want to repeat the lecture here. I think I have saved it. Yeah. So let me first of all open this. Let me open this and then talk about it if it is saved. I don't know whether I could save it. I think it's loaded. I could have opened it from here, I think. My mistake. So I use the same Excel file that you have seen for the Scopus. I have created something for you. I can explain how it can be used and what this visualization means. Let me, I think if I can open this, open it, it should be available. Right, it works. So I use the same Excel that I have used for literature visualization previously with BiblioShiny. I use that same data set to do this, right? Once it loaded, let me show you. You can do better. I did it within 20 minutes or something, actually, just to share with you what it is. So will take, right. So what I have done is the same database. Okay, some of you might not be familiar with Power BI, but let me just show you. It's the same database, data set, and it contains the columns and the things that you have seen. What I have done is I have used the abstract, the column for the abstract, and created this word cluster, right? So previously what we did was we looked at the research from a broader perspective. Like we looked at the research from the keywords, from the authors, but we didn't look at the text inside, right? You can go for LLM, like large language models, and maybe, there are ways to even chat with your own research. So with the LLMs, but it's available for only for some type of researchers, because all of us are not familiar with LLMs and all these things. But it's similar to this. What I have done is I've used the abstract and I have created the word cluster, so that whenever I click on some let's say this sum of cited something, then I can look at which specific journal is publishing what. So here the sum of cited, and also you have the journal names on the x-axis, and you have the citation count here, and here you have the affiliations to look at who is doing what, right? I can narrow it down, filter it down with Power BI, but I don't want to do that here. But if you are interested in, you can do this. So what you can see here is you can separately look at institutions, journals, and how the word clustering in those journals would vary, right? And also if you are, see now it takes some time, but you can see how it varies. Now if you are looking at the size of the text here, you can see when I click on remote sensing, right? Remote sensing journal, you can see immediately SAR, spill, classification, data, oil, that increases, the size of that increases because the frequency is high. Because I am working in this area, I know that remote sensing, that particular journal is focusing on this synthetic aperture radar and classification and machine learning and whatnot. But if you look at environmental research letters, let's see whether how the words would vary. You can see, as I previously said, the plastic and all these things, they belong to environmental cluster, not directly to marine. So you can see the frequency of the text. Yes, marine is there because my keyword indicated marine. I was focusing on that. But now, additional to that, you can see plastic. The research into plastic is available. So and so forth. You can decide. Applied energy, would see a different type of set of keywords. Power, system, ship. You can see this. So it's a very simple thing. I took only 15 minutes to do this because I thought it would be interesting for you. I wanted to create this. What I used was the same data set that I've used for the BiblioShine, right? And I used the Power BI to cluster them and then use some very simple techniques to do this. And the good thing with this is very interesting, because now if you have a search file that keeps on updating, right, you can actually create a dashboard for you. If you are a big professor, to see where your research is heading, like a captain of a ship, you can look at this dashboard and see where your research is moving and what sort of things are emerging, right? You can do that, you can come to that level, but it's very simple. It's not a big thing. Only thing you need to do is database access, which we can try to find it from our friends, or if we have the access, we can do this. And also, if you are using dimensions, you can also do this as well. Right. Now, additional to this, let me show you something. If you are going for SAR, if you click on this, the specific keyword there as well, you can see the affiliations who are working on that. I can refine this. I mean, the visualization can be enhanced a bit. With that, you can see the affiliations, clustering them. So say you are applying for a PhD position or MSc or whatever to work on a particular area, or looking at an instrument that you need to use to your work, maybe you can write an email to them and ask whether there's a possibility to use our things and like that. So right, so this is the full picture of visualization. So I think I have moved quite fast. So please, if you have a question, I'm all ears to listen to, because I thought it's better to get your feedback and decide what is next. Right. Right. You can ask. Yes.
Yeah, any possibility, for example, an institution, university may, Morocco may look symposium, department. So the productivity of the research output, is there any check in be power?
Yeah, it is possible. Yeah, what you need to do is like this. You go to Scopus website, and maybe I think there's an option to select authors who have in the University of Monitor affiliation, and then you get all the research publications. Then you get the Excel file or the CSV. After that, you have to do the pre-processing inside Power BI. You can cluster them based on the institution, the source title, likewise, and then you can create the visualization like that. So you have the author profile, for example. You can click on that person. I haven't linked any of the data set here, just the thing that I downloaded. But if you have the list of all the researchers that is available from as employees of University of Monitor, you have a different database, right? So you can link them, and with that you can see who is publishing where and who is publishing what. So with that, actually, you can decide the directions of those researchers. If they are looking at maybe, you can, in a much broader level, you can give like, okay, you are only publishing in conferences. Maybe you can think of publishing 2 or 3 journal papers at the end of the day. Likewise, you can even come to that KPI as well. You can. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Okay. So for the things that I have installed, right? Installed. Yeah. Yeah, I think you can first of all install. There are a few. Like my suggestion is to go to R Studio and install that first. R Studio. Yeah. R Studio. Yeah. Yes, you have to install both. Both. Yeah. R is the language. R Studio is the interface that you work with. So you have to install both.
Once we install R, I remember you wrote something in the.
Yeah. That is for that is the. It's like this. Now you install the language and you install the interface to work with, but this is done with a different package called Bibliometrics. So you have to install that. Install .packages Bibliometrics. Then it will be installed in the repository of R. All the things will be installed. You don't have to worry. Just type that. I'll share the code. Just enter it and it will be there. And after that, you just need to run this Bibliometrics, 2 colons, BiblioShine. Then it will open up in the browser. After that, it actually just import the data from there.
Thank you.
Right. And for the Power BI, I think if you are using a Windows computer, you can install it on your computer. Yes, it's Microsoft software. It's one of their. It's not inbuilt, but you can install.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, you just need to go to the Microsoft App Center and then install Power BI. Simple work. Nothing.
Thank you so much for the informative session. Dr. Sandun, so you explained some things regarding the thematic analysis, then the under the bibliometrics. So can we recommend it to our students because then they need in vivo, there are some techniques, softwares to analyze, then we need qualitative data analysis, especially thematic analysis. So, is it okay to apply for postgraduate students for their thesis, or it's just for the getting?
You mean the things that analyze using BiblioShiny, this one, or specifically anything related to thematic analysis? Is it the question? Is it related to using thematic analysis entirely for postgraduate work, or using this software for that?
Uh, then I mean, so then when we do qualitative research analytical part, so then normally we need a software to do for it. So then here we show the way how to visualize it using these things. So then I mean, so the data analysis is a main part in their research. So then can we use these things, or do we need to go for that kind of software for that
Right,
purpose?
right. It's a good question. First, to answer that, I'm not using that in my work, so I'm not really familiar with whether this is possible with this particular software in package. But as a person who is working in data science, yes, there is a possibility. Like you just need to. If I were to do it, I'll use code because I will be using this if I am to do it. But let me check on that if there is a possibility to use this directly and then without codes to do that here, because I think everybody is not familiar with codes, right? So that can be an issue. But coming back to the question, I'm not really sure whether this is possible, that particular thing is possible with this. It is only, I have used this only for visualization. If you are going like, if I want to do that kind of analysis, what I would do is I will go for large language models like something related to this text analytics, not not to. So,
Thank you so much.
for Power BI, yes. With Power BI, yes.
Actually, we and save data into an Excel sheet and make it data with package
Um,
data analyzing process.
Right, right. Okay, so coming to that, we have to give a bit of an understanding of the software itself. This one, BiblioShiny is a package written to have this dashboard. It's for dashboards. Like R uses code for dashboard. BiblioShiny is for that particular purpose. So if you are using now, as I said, when we imported data, when we are loading data, you saw that specifically it shows what database and all these things, because that code is written for that exact type of the structure. So if you are doing an Excel, preparing in Excel and then putting it here, it will not understand.
Oh.
Yeah, but there is a way to do it. One thing is you can use Power BI as I use to do this. You can cluster it and do some pre-processing. There are parametric analysis coding that you can do inside Power BI, which will allow you to select those things and do the visualization.
Right.
But again, if you are looking into that kind of a thing, R can be used, but not with BiblioShiny. There are other packages.
Because that's a global one. That's what you are saying. The data from the different.
Yeah, it's like this. Because we are not typing any code here, we are relying entirely on this clicks. So when you are clicking something, that particular code is executed. So it knows the structure of the data and how it is loaded, etc. You don't need to teach it. I mean, tell it. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I can give you two suggestions. Like one thing is, if you are using the, when you are doing your filtering, like when you are doing the search, be very specific and try to avoid all the unnecessary things. Because when the data is too large, I mean, so many things would be there, like grant IDs, unnecessary details, repetitions of things, like missing, like if you are looking, we don't read Chinese or Portuguese, so we don't need that. Like focusing on English, you can do those things, because sometimes even when you are doing the text clustering as well, some foreign words inside those things can be an issue when you are going for the visualization. So first of all, putting it correct at the source itself, how you are taking the data. The next thing is always try to everyone is familiar with Excel. So rather than going for the codes and all, just go to Excel and filter out those things, delete the rows that don't have the values, and see whether your data is clean. If you are, you can do the pre-processing. That's the first thing and best thing to do, because now if I tell you to do filtering in Python, then you have to learn Python. Do with R, you have to learn R. But Excel, everyone is familiar with, so you can see this and then filter out that. And also maybe if you see, hardly you would see if you are taking it from Scopus that there's an error in the file itself. But if you are creating your own, also you can think whether to maybe type it in a different way or likewise. But my suggestion comes back to that, fix it at the source itself, or use kind of Excel functionalities to remove those null values and other things. No question? Right. So if you don't have any questions, I call it off. I will make the material available, the things that I have used available on a link, so you can download them. And please try to do it by yourself to see whether you can do this. See whether you can do the visualization and all. And I encourage you, because even though Power BI is used for business intelligence and other stuff, this can be used for the same thing as well. I mean, I think it's applicable and available to all of you. So you can use it and see how you can come up with different ideas. Right, okay, I'm going to stop then. Thank you.